All right, Algebra 2, we're back to division of polynomials. And so this is the second and last method that we're going to practice using to divide polynomials. So the first method we used was long division, and you can see how similar it was to elementary school long division and the steps in the process to get the answer. And so now we're going to look at a new way to do this. This is called synthetic division. But before we get into the synthetic steps, we're going to look at a problem and use long division first, and then we can see how we can manipulate it a little bit to use synthetic. All right, so if you remember when we did long division, we're looking at the x on the outside, okay, and the x squared on the inside, and asking ourselves, what do we have to multiply the x by to get x squared? So x times what is x squared? Well, it's x. Okay, so I'm going to put the x up on top. Now we take the x on top and we distribute. Remember, we have to distribute everything on the outside. And so x times x is x squared. We want to line up our exponents. And then x times 1 is plus x. All right? And then we would draw a line underneath. And always remember, after you draw that line, change both signs to their opposites. Both signs to their opposites. And then add down. So the x squared and the negative x squared cancel out. 3x plus negative x is 2x. We'll bring down the plus 5. Right, and then the process just repeats itself. So we look on the x on the outside and the 2x and ask ourselves, what do we multiply x by to get 2x? So this time it's going to be plus 2. We'll take the 2 on top, positive 2, and we distribute over. So 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 1 is 2. We draw the line underneath, change both signs to their opposites, add down, 2 x's cancel, and then 5 plus negative 2 is 3. So this 3 right here is our remainder. And if you remember how we wrote with the remainder our answer, it was x plus 2, that was on top, plus our remainder was 3 over what we were dividing by, x plus 1. All right, so that's in long division. So we're going to look at how this is set up using what's called synthetic. So if you look at the problem, we kind of get rid of the x's, okay? And so this outside number, this negative 1, comes from this x plus 1. It's just the opposite sign though, all right? Because it's a binomial, x plus 1. We change the sign, and that's the number that's going to go right there on the outside. Then we do this upside down long division, okay? So trace it, upside down long division. And then we take the coefficients, so the numbers in front of the x's and the constant term in order from what we were dividing into. So this right here, this x squared plus 3x plus 5, the coefficients are 1, 3, and 5. And so that's the numbers that are going on top here, 1, 3, and 5. Right, that's how you start it. So you have the negative 1 from the opposite sign of what we were dividing by, and then the coefficients of what we're dividing into, 1, 3, and 5, in order. If you skip an exponent from the original problem, you have to put a 0 in as a placeholder. That's going to be really important. All right, so make sure all your exponents are accounted for, and if they're not, put a 0 in. Even the constant term at the end. If there's no constant term, put a 0. All right, so this is how we started. So we drop down this first number, which in this case was a 1. It goes on the outside. Okay? And then what we do is we multiply those two together. All right, so the negative 1 and the 1 get multiplied together, and then that answer gets carried up right there. That's where the negative 1 is. Right, so negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. So we carry it on the inside. Then what we do is we add down. Right, so we're going to add down. So 3 plus negative 1 is positive 2. So then we repeat the process over again. We multiply the outside number, negative 1 times 2, and we carry that number up. So that gives us negative 2. And then again, we add down. So 5 plus negative 2 is 3. And this 3 right here, I just circle it, but this is my remainder. All right. And so you can see the remainder was 3. Right, so that last number is our remainder. So it's going to look a little weird at first, but you'll get really fast at this, and this is a faster method to divide polynomials than long division. Long division, you can use long division on any type of division of polynomials. It doesn't matter what you're dividing by. It could be any exponent, coefficients in front. We use this synthetic as a shortcut only if we're dividing by a binomial and it's an x to the first power. Right, so the x plus 1, because it's x to the first and it's plus or minus a number, this is how we can use synthetic. And this is the only type of problem that you can use synthetic division on. All right, so if it said x squared plus 1, you couldn't use synthetic. Right? If it said 2x plus 1, you could use synthetic, but it's going to be a little bit harder. You have to manipulate it a little bit. So we would use long division if it said 2x plus 1. All right, so you want to see the pattern again, how this is set up. So here we have the polynomial x to the fourth minus 2x squared minus 2x plus 4, and we're dividing it by x plus 3. All right, so you can see how it's set up. We take that x plus 3 binomial, and we change the sign. Always got to remember to change the sign. So it's a negative 3 on the outside. And then the coefficients of what we're dividing into are 1. So that's the x to the fourth. Now there's no x to the third in here, so we're going to put a 0 in as a placeholder. That's the x to the third. The x squared has a coefficient of negative 10. X to the first has a coefficient of negative 2. And then the constant term is 4. So those numbers are right here on top. Let's put them in order. All right, 1, 0, negative 10, negative 2, and 4. And then we do our upside down long division. Okay, just trace it again. All right, so then how we start this is the first number, which is 1, gets dropped down on the outside. 1. Then we multiply these two together and carry it up here. So that's negative 3. And then we add down, so that's negative 3 down here. And then we repeat the process, we multiply. So negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. Carry that up here. And then we add down, so that's negative 1. And then we multiply negative 3 times negative 1. That's positive 3, carried on the inside. And then we add down, negative 2 plus 3 is 1. Then we multiply again. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. We add down, and that's positive 1. So this last number again, this is my remainder. So now we're going to go ahead and write the answer. So the way that you're going to write the answer, it's a polynomial. And what we do is we look at our original polynomial, what we were dividing into. Okay, we want to look at its degree. And so the degree of the original polynomial was 4, x to the fourth. What we're going to do is our polynomial for the answer is going to drop by 1 degree to start it. All right? So it's going to start, instead of an x to the fourth, it's going to start with x to the third. And then these numbers down here are the coefficients for the answer. So the 1, so it comes first, so that's 1x to the third. I could just write it as x to the third. That's 1x to the third. Then we just keep dropping the exponent and putting the next coefficient. So negative 3 comes next, and then that would be x squared. And then negative 1, you can put a negative 1, and then it's x. And then plus 1, right, that's the constant term. And now we want to put in our remainder, so plus our remainder 1 over what we were dividing by, the binomial x plus 3. Right, and that's how you write the answer. So you have your polynomial plus your remainder. All right, so let's go ahead and do some of these problems. All right, so again, you want to make sure that you change the sign of the binomial, and then look and see if you're missing any exponents, so you can put a 0 in as a placeholder. All right, so we're going to start with positive 3. Our coefficients are 2, negative 1, and negative 4. we're not skipping any exponents because it goes x squared and then x to the first and then the constant term. All right, so then we're going to drop this first number down, 2. We're going to multiply these two together, 3 times 2, and that gets carried up here, 6. And then we're going to add down, see all these arrows, so just so you can see where I'm at. So negative 1 plus 6 is 5. We're going to multiply, 3 times 5, that's 15, we carry it up here. We add down, so that's 11. So I just put a box or circle around it, because that's the last number, that's my remainder. All right, so now I want to go ahead and write the answer. So the original problem was a degree 2, 2x squared. Ours has to start with 1 degree less, so it's going to start with an x to the first. These are the coefficients, 2 and 5. So it's going to be 2x plus 5 plus my remainder, 11, over what I was dividing by, x minus 3. All right, so make sure you see where the 2 and the 5 are coming from the problem, and then how you put it into the answer, and then plus the remainder, 11, over what we were divided by. Right, so let's go ahead and do number 2. So here we're dividing by x plus 1, so we've got to change the sign to a negative 1. All right, so we want to look at what we're dividing by, or dividing into, see if we're skipping any exponents. So we start with a 4, and then it goes to a 3, and then it goes to a 1, x to the first, 4x to the first. So we're missing x squared, so we have to put a 0 in as a placeholder. All right, so our coefficients are going to be 1, negative 1, 0, 4, 2. All right, so 1, negative 1, 0, 4, and 2. We're going to drop that first number down. We're going to multiply negative 1 times 1. We're going to carry it up here. That's negative 1. Add down. Negative 1 plus negative 1 is negative 2. We'll carry. We'll repeat the process. Negative 1 times negative 2. That's positive 2. Add down. Multiply negative 1 times 2. It's negative 2. Add down. That's positive 2. Multiply negative 1 times 2. It's negative 2 again. Add down. It's 0. So here we have a remainder of 0. Right, so our original problem is an x to the fourth, so ours will start with x to the third. These are our coefficients. So just go in order. So 1x to the third minus 2x squared plus 2x plus 2. And because the remainder is 0, we don't have to put in the fraction remainder. All right, so let's go ahead and do number 3. All right, so here we're dividing by x plus 2, so we've got to change the sign to a negative 2. To our upside down long division. Okay, so we're dividing into x to the third minus x minus 4. So we have an exponent 3 that we're starting with, and then there's no exponent 2, so we have to put a 0 in. So 1, 0, negative 6, negative 4. Right, so we'll drop the 1 down, multiply, carry it up, add down. Okay, then we'll multiply. It's positive 4. Okay, add down, it's negative 2. Okay, we'll multiply again. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. Okay, we'll add down 0. So here again we got a remainder 0. Right, so again these are the coefficients. 1, negative 2, and negative 2. Our original problem started with x to the third, degree 3, so we're going to drop it. So ours will start with a degree 2x squared. So 1x squared minus 2x minus 2. And since there's no remainder, no fraction. All right, last one. All right, so here we're dividing by x minus 1, so we're going to put a 1, positive 1. Our coefficients are 2, negative 1, we're missing x squared, we have to put a 0 in, and we're also missing x, so we have to put another 0 in. And then 5 is our constant term. So this has two placeholders, zeros, that we're using. Right, so here we'll drop that 2 down and multiply, carry it up, that's 2. Add down, 1. Okay, we'll multiply again. 1 times 1 is 1, we'll carry it up. Add down, and we'll multiply 1 times 1, 1. We'll add 0 plus 1 is 1. Then we'll multiply 1 times 1 again, that's 1. We'll add down, that's 6. So here's my remainder 6. Alright, and then we have our coefficients for our polynomial answer. The original problem started with x to the 4, so ours will start with x to the 3rd. Remember, always drop it by 1 degree to start. So it's going to be 2x to the 3rd plus 1x squared plus 1x plus 1 plus our remainder 6 over what we were dividing by x minus 1. Alright, so there's the answer. Right? So make sure you understand, the process. Bring down the first number, multiply, bring it up, add down. Multiply, bring it up, add down. It's really important that you keep track of your signs, your multiplication, adding down, positives, negatives, all that. Because as soon as you mess up one part of it, anywhere in the process, then everything after that is going to be wrong because you're using the wrong numbers at some point in the problem. So be careful at each step. All right, so good luck.